Good morning here. Little different and change up from normal weeks here. I don't have John with me today because we're talking about a marriage or a topic on marriage. And so I figured, hey, what better way to start this off than to bring Audrey in here. Audrey, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Audrey, married to the Joel Boer.
Awesome.
No more introduction needed than that, right? No.
Exactly. So we're talking about the topic of business and marriage, and really that's a difficult topic, I think, for some because. Yeah. What do you think?
Just a little. Working with family is one thing. Working with your spouse is a whole nother game.
Whole nother game. Yeah. Exactly. And it brings its own dynamics, its own challenges, its own frustrations, its own stresses, everything else. And so what better way to talk about this topic than bring in also to a power couple out there that have been very successful in accomplishing this challenge, Megan and Josh Steinberger. We're going to go ahead and invite Megan and Josh onto the stream here. Megan and Josh,
good morning.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Well, lay it out a little bit better. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Great.
Got the kids off to school, got the coffee. Oh, you got water. I got coffee.
I already drank my coffee.
Had an extra.
There you go. So what we're going to start with, Megan and Josh, tell us who you guys are. Tell us, for those that are watching.
Introduce yourselves.
Tell us a little bit about who Megan and Josh is.
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Josh Steinberger. Megan and I have been married now a little over 10 years and have started multiple businesses from the ground up, as well as acquired a few over the years. So we didn't start that way. We're both babies when we got together, etc. So learning through life experiences and all the things that go with that into the process to becoming entrepreneurs and starting businesses, and then trying not to get divorced in the process of starting businesses as you start to read all of the wonderful people's advice out there, Sean Whalen, etc. A couple good friends of mine now that have built multiple, 10s, 20s, $30 million companies, and then gave it all away, lost it all, got divorced, and, went down the rabbit hole of depression and all the things that come along with losing your family and life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What's the point of family or what's the point of the money and all of the things that come with building a business and having abundance if you don't have abundance in all areas of your life? And so that has been Megan and I's mission as of late, now that we, you check off the financial side of things and the business side of things, and you're like, there's other things here we needed to focus on.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that. In 10 years today, that's a milestone for a lot of folks.
That's party worthy. That's redoing your vows worthy.
Right.
Yes.
So you look at like a lot of marriages today, and like you mentioned, like starting multiple businesses, or when let's say before you start business, and you're just trying to put things together. You're trying to raise a family. You're trying to make ends meet. You're trying to figure out how, and then the stresses that come with it. Usually, that's enough to break up anybody.
It's additional stress you didn't plan on.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess along the journey, 10 plus years, you guys have started multiple businesses. I know, for example, at Grant Cardone's 10X Growth Con, Josh was on stage, as a testament really to the success there that's been accomplished from a business standpoint. My question, I guess, initially to kind of start with is, for you guys, what challenges did that bring along the way? And maybe there was he's back.
Did
it very smooth.
Yeah.
So what challenges did along the last 10 years to get us on stage? Is that what
along the way. Go ahead.
I was going to say maybe from the time when you went off on your own and started your business, Next Gen, when you started that, because that was a whole new dynamic.
Yeah. On the marriage side, everything just happened like so fast that I think that it took us, like almost 3 years to catch up of like, oh, where did that 3 years go?
Yeah.
But I mean, on the business side, it was great.
Yeah. You guys had been married a few years when you started that business. And that's how we met you.
We had been married 7 years before we started Next Gen, and Josh fudged a little. We're actually going on 12 years in September.
Okay.
It'll be 12 years we've been married, not 10.
I said 10 plus.
Us,
Over 10.
we're almost 20. We were babies.
What-
Almost 20. Yeah.
What Josh was trying to make sure is he still felt like newlyweds, right?
Yeah.
It was, closer. So,
Well, I think that's one of the big things that people don't realize in marriage and businesses is that whether or not you're an entrepreneur, you work for a company, you're an employee, you're still an entrepreneur of your life, of your marriage, of your household, of your kids, right? So you're still the business owner of that entity. And it operates the same. You have bills to pay. You have to provide income. Just because a paycheck comes from a job over here doesn't change the fact that it comes into the family unit. And so when you look at it and you break it down that way, every single person that's going to watch this, think about this, etc. When you start to really look at your marriage and your life and your children and your family as a business, it's got all kinds of different departments that have to be functioning and operating at the highest level, and in order for it to run properly. And so when you start to do that, you can break down, job duties and titles and lanes within itself without, being an overbearing asshole per se for, hey, I'm the boss of the house. But at the point, if you compartmentalize each individual thing into a division or a department like you would a business, your home family life will run a lot smoother because you don't have the arguments don't happen anymore, because it's not who's doing this, who's doing that, what are we doing, why are commingling, in business you would commingle funds, you would commingle responsibilities, and it would be who am I reporting to, what am I doing? The kids don't know what to do, they're playing mom and dad against each other because they don't know whose role is what. And then one kid comes to you and her and asks a question, she says no, and they come to me, and then I can overrule it. Well, if I know that my lane is in the home business is to never make that decision, that's not something that's my thing ever, then I know that no matter what the answer, the question is when the child comes to me and says, hey dad, I want to whatever, blah blah blah, it's never, my job is never to answer that. my job, what'd your mother say? Go talk to your mother. This is her thing. Whatever she says you can do, and I will support it fully, wholly, and get behind it, and we'll push that direction. And that's kind of one of the things that we learned through all of the things that you do is when you start to really look at that, your eyes kind of become open.
Yeah. I think people forget that or don't realize that. When they're just clocking in and working for somebody else and never have management or run a business, you forget that. But in a loving way, you can do that with your family. Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes people too, they get caught into just the routine, the mundane routine of things, and they let that drown out what they know they should be doing. Or a lot of times when they start in on marriage, they don't make some of those decisions up front. And so later when these things start to occur, they're not prepared ahead of time on how they're planning on handling that. They talk, hey, we want to have kids. All right, well, how are we going to handle having kids? And then
what's our parenting philosophy? Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Can we agree and then be on the same page before we ever get to the point where the little one's asking for mom or dad's permission on something?
Well, let's be honest. In this day and age, how many people are actually properly family planning and having children that they intended on having up front before they started?
Forever. I think that's probably been true forever.
That's exactly true. But a lot of people fail to even have the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We had that conversation dating. And I didn't even want kids. I mean, we didn't plan to have children. I knew it was important to him, but it wasn't a priority to me at all. It didn't fit into what I thought life was going to be for us. But I mean, we still had that conversation, even though it wasn't even a thought in my mind. We thought we better at least be on the same page as if it happens, what will we do? If you go fishing, you might catch a fish. So know what you're going to do with the fish.
Exactly.
Yes.
I like your analogy.
I heard that from a wise older man, and he had no fish. He planned that well.
So as you guys, dating, getting married, you guys started, I mean, how you are handling things, did this start in the very beginning like this? Or was this something where it caught up and you're like, we need to figure this one out? or?
When we first started dating, we were working for somebody else. So we kind of applied those principles to our home life, like Josh was talking about, where I worked less than he did. So I was in charge of the children. I was in charge of the house. I was in charge of, planning anything that we were doing. And then he was focused on building business and generating income for our family.
Mm-hmm.
So we automatically started out, we had kids before we met each other. So we each had one before we knew each other. And so we were already, we already had our fish. So
Right.
we had to make sure, the kids were taken care of. And I just automatically fell into that role, being the stereotypical female role.
Same here, though. Same here. I leave work before he does. Go pick up the kids, take care of the family. Yeah.
So we just automatically fell into those roles when we started dating.
And I think there's something to the traditional aspect of marriage and in the way that it's biblically designed.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's so scared to have, job titles the way that we would describe it, but what they would call it is gender roles.
Right.
Hey, I'm the man, so I'm supposed to this. Hey, I'm the woman, so I'm supposed to that. Well, we can't do those. And instead of looking at it in the way that I shouldn't have to be the breadwinner because I'm the man, and she shouldn't have to be the mom and the stay at home and the kid person because she is a female. What's happening is a lot of times today, people are pushing back on just the fact of what that is, just to push back on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I shouldn't have to be that because I did. Are you saying that's because I'm a man or a woman? No, we're not saying that at all. What we're saying is that
I'm just more nurturing than he is.
Genetically speaking, we were made in a way that certain things come naturally to both of us to do certain things. And so rather than reinvent the wheel and push the cart with square wheels, let's make the wheels round and go with the flow of nature and allow us to do what we do best without, having to push back on that for any reason. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's kind of gotten lost in a lot of marriages in society today.
Yeah.
Right. No, and I think you're right there, because that's where a lot of challenges will start is there's this head knocking because they're trying to just fight it to fight it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think that that's difficult for women because a lot of women now are forced into the workforce just because it's hard to sustain a family on just one income.
Very hard.
I think that the real struggle for women is yes, we want to be empowered and feel like we're worthy of bringing in that income, that we're equal in both roles. But really, you're equal, but it seems like the females are less equal just because they have an underappreciated job, basically. You don't get the good job today from your children of I fed you and I put a roof over your head, because that's how children think. That doesn't mean that they're any less, but I think that that's where most of the pushback from society is coming now is, yes, we want equal women's rights. Yes, we want to be a voice and we want to be empowered. But it hasn't been that way for years and years and years. It doesn't mean that it's not going to get there, but I think that we just need to go about it the right way and show them yes, we can be impactful in the world. And yes, we can be impactful in this industry. And we can still be a nurturing mother and a caretaker for our children. Right. And we can have it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think there's a balance too, where sometimes, like what Josh was touching on too, people fight the concept or those things just to fight it. And a lot of times also too, it's looked at, for example, if the husband stays home and takes care of the kids, or that he's now a weaker guy because of that, or if the wife stays home and takes care of the kid, that's this the husband's being an oppressive guy. But but really, if both of those look at that like departments and as a team, and they realize that, hey, together we're accomplishing this bigger goal that's taking our family here, this direction, right? It's not minimizing or diminishing the role. It actually it can heighten it if it's applied properly.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to
Lift
say.
the other person up. Yeah.
A lot of
with COVID and schools shut down and not shut down, that responsibility definitely needs to be split up between the male and the female so that they're not being overwhelmed on one side or the other.
Right.
Right. So now, as you guys moved along, business came, that added new pressures. You guys already probably were starting to figure out how we're going to handle these things. And like you said, Megan, earlier, things change really, really quickly, right?
Yes.
Tell us, what were, whatever you want to share there, what challenges do you feel that you didn't expect? What, as you went down the journey of creating business, and that frankly, this journey of creating business can happen, like Josh said, if you're starting your own business or you're working for somebody, either way, as things grow, the same pressures might come. What challenges did you guys feel like you encountered that you weren't anticipating?
That's a good question. There's a lot, I guess. I guess it's kind of like narrowing it down to bigger chunks, probably. I think that one of the biggest challenges, yes, we were hoping to run another company when we separated and started our own. So we were aware of the workload that needed to be done. I think that the biggest amount of stress, at least for me, was I wasn't working as much at the other company as I started working overnight at this company that we have now. So that was a big change for me. And then an added stress for me was that we overnight had a lot of people depending on us and a lot of families depending on us. And if we didn't make it work and make it succeed, then all of those families would be hungry.
Right.
And so that was a big weight that I took on of I have to work harder and push harder to make sure that those children are fed, because we treat our employees like their family, and we're very close with everybody that works for us. So I know their children personally, and I couldn't bear the thought of, well, I didn't work hard enough, so they went hungry today, or I didn't work hard enough, so my kids went hungry today.
Right. What about you, Josh? What was a challenge you didn't anticipate that came along
from starting businesses?
Yeah. So when we met you guys about what was it, about 3 years ago or so?
Yeah, 2018.
Um,
Had you just started NextGen, or were you getting ready to break off and start it?
We started February 1st of 2018.
Okay, so you had wow, you guys a month.
Yeah. We transitioned from the other company. Yeah. Exactly. February 1st, and then GrowthCon, when we bumped into you guys and all the things happened, was 2 weeks later.
That was your first month of business. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So very quickly, I would imagine that these new roles, like Megan, you said, you're more involved now. Now the realization of, hey, these all these people and these mouths now depend upon us even more so. I mean, that weighs on.
Yeah, that's a weight on any business owner, small or big. I think, especially when you're small and growing and starting, you need their help. They need you to provide. So until the legs come, and then it just, like you guys, catapult. So because you put in the work. But that is a heavy burden. That is a heavy thing you think about.
But the burden though too, and correct me if what you guys think or what you guys feel about that too, that burden, I mean, right at the beginning, as you're both trying to get in tune as far as the direction that you're working together, I mean, what would be the most critical thing from a marriage standpoint that you would say is like the one thing that has to happen?
Oh, I got. And so our book is going to come out very soon, which will go into very detail about this kind of specific topic.
Yep.
And so what it comes down to is intentionality. So what you assign as your most valuable things in life are what makes its way onto your schedule. And so starting it as a new business, it's easy to just look at her and go, hey, I got to work 20 hours a day for however many years it takes to do it, because this is what I have to do to make it. And while that's true, to a degree in the very, 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 very early, months of life, and, hey, we got to grin and bear it for a little bit. What tends to happen in the roles is the person who's directing and steering the ship is that the target always continues to push back. And so you continue to make your goals. And, the thing is, if I can only have this, then we can slow down and we can enjoy life. Well, what happens is you get that and you blow it out of the water and you're already 2 steps further than that. And you're like, okay, well, the next step is up here. And then the next one's there. And so what happens is the carrot just continues to move further and further and further away. And what ends up happening is that your spouse, no matter what they say or don't say in the roles of everything, is that they're going to begin to resent all of the things. It doesn't matter how many Range Rovers you buy or $1 million houses or vacations on the water and the things in Miami or Vegas and the penthouses and, hey, quarterly we go on a week trip to wherever. If that week that we go quarterly on a vacation to get away because Monday through Saturday, Sunday, I'm never home. I spend 0 intentional time with, quality time with our spouse, with my significant other. If I don't spend any of that time intentionally with her, and then I go out quarterly and we do it, and on those quarters, I'm still on my phone because business doesn't stop when we're out of town. So what do we do steering the ship? Hey, I took you to X island and it's a private island and we bought the whole island because we're wealthy and we have money now. And what ends up happening that entire time is I work the whole time. But hey, look at the views. Nobody else on the planet gets to see these things and do these things. You're so lucky that we've got these things, and it's all because I'm giving it to you because I love you. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you say you're going to be home Friday at 6:30 p.m. and you're home at 6:15 p.m. getting ready for a date to take her out at 7:30 because that's what you said you were going to do. And at 7:30, your phone gets put in a drawer and you don't take it with you. You go on the date and you're physically there. Eye contact, phone contact. There's nothing else. And, the good news is for guys like me is that we can then take all that cash that we're like, I'm just throwing it at you, trying to get you to love me. And we can put it in a savings account somewhere and then buy an apartment complex or invest it somewhere so that now you have a bigger nest egg to do your business with because you slowed down on one thing and gave up a couple hours of your work time so that you could spend that time intentionally loving and devoting yourself to your spouse so that they don't build a level of resentment where you got to dig out of a hole.
Right.
That was very well worded. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell them about cell phone free dates? I've been asking for that since we were dating. We've been dating 21 years. He had the cell phone before anybody else did. And we go out to eat and on a date and it's on the table. I'm like, can we put it away? Do you need that?
There's been a few.
I can't even remember. No.
Okay. I got to work on that.
But your kids notice it too.
The best dates of her life, though.
Yeah, with no phone. But your kids, not just your spouse and digging out a hole, your kids notice it too. And you guys have boys, teenage boys, they notice it and they're going to hit a certain age. They're going to start calling you out on it. No offense, but I mean, they do.
Right.
You probably, it's a boy thing.
Too. We do date days every Tuesday. We take the kids on a one-on-one date and we switch back and forth each week. And we are very intentional in spending that quality time with them. We put our phone away. We make sure that we're having a conversation and making sure that they feel comfortable talking to us. And we want them to know that it's okay to talk to us, but we also want them to learn because technology isn't going anywhere. We want them to learn that they still need to create personal relationships with other people. And when they are having a conversation with somebody, they need to be making eye contact and having this conversation, not talking like this to the other person and like half listening.
Right.
They call you out on that. I get asked a lot. Are you listening, Mom? Are you paying attention, Mom? Did you hear what I said? I need to work on that.
And just like Grant's children do to him, William will say, "Do I have your full attention?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, you do. And I have to remind myself, now is the time that you need me as a mom. I'm going to put the phone down. I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
And they're going to remember that, and they're going to tell their friends about that. This is going to stick with them their entire life. You're building a fine foundation for your children with that. I'm getting goosebumps. You need to go have a date.
Date dates are great.
They're awesome. They're our favorite.
Your pictures are so cute. That fishing, when you took William fishing, that was the cutest video. I like him. He's just adorable.
He loves it.
So Wednesdays, we do our kids go to school on Wednesdays, and we do a lunch date every Wednesday, just the two of us. We might talk about business, but we're talking with each other and we're not on our phones, and we just it's like a solid hour of just one-on-one time that we can just spend together.
One of the big things within that is that goal setting is wonderful individually, but if you don't do it familially and as a couple,
Right.
you can be going this direction is big and is awesome and be on target for everything I'm at over here. But if I never discuss that with her, she could be going this way.
Right.
And then what happens is every day that we go towards our goals, every day our goals continue to bring us further apart, no matter how intentional we are together. If we never have those conversations, we're going in two different directions. You're dragging each other, along with a ball and chain, both directions, and we're never going to get where we're trying to go. So yeah, I mean, Wednesday dates is talk about the takeover, where we're going, goal things. We come out of that thing sometimes so jazzed, we do all kinds of
work.
Like buy a Range Rover.
Yeah. Bottle of wine, you start, we're going to do this or that. And like, hey, we're a business. Boom, we're starting a business and we're buying cars and houses. And
Add another one.
Right.
Just one more.
I think you mentioned as far as like the goals, if you don't get your spouse on the same page, I mean, that's a critical one. If they don't know where your mind's focused as far as where you're going,
we've been there we have been there too.
And it just, like you said, you're just going different directions. And so how
the term ball and chain came from, I feel like you're just holding the other person down because they don't know where you're going. So if you're in line of where you're going, you can like help propel them forward instead of holding them down.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I like that too. That's important because, if you propel your loved one forward, you're gonna realize, and if that person's in tune with that as well, the recognition is going to happen, and so that fulfillment from the relationship is just going to be enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be strengthened.
Well, especially as entrepreneurs, because you're leading the ship. So you don't have somebody sitting there being like, oh, you're doing a great job. You're getting to your goals, because generally the people that you're pulling along with you on your ship are not in the same mindset as you are. So if you have somebody that you can share that with, then it really like helps alleviate some of that stress on you. And then it's also somebody who can be encouraging on the other side.
Can maybe from a marriage point, I need to ask this. I grew up in a family where we loved each other, but we didn't say it. We didn't hug. We didn't commend. We knew we all, yeah. Do you have to remind yourself to tell Josh, you're doing a great job. Thank you. Because I find myself, I think it, but I don't say it. And then I'm like, I need to say it more. I should have. So you can relate to that. Okay.
So a lot of that, that's good that you mentioned that. And so I would encourage anybody that's in a relationship, in a marriage, is dating and anything like that, to read themselves and also have their spouse read the book, The 5 Love Languages.
I've had that on my list for years and I need to read it.
It's so good. And it's a quick read.
Have to read it. It's a super short book. And so the whole purpose of that is like you just said. So clearly we already know your love language is that you like words of affirmation. You like to be told I love you.
He likes that.
Right? Or he likes that. But it's not everybody's like that. And so, some people would feel good about, hey, I need encouragement and support. And gift giving is literally how they feel that. And so buying them little trinkets and a card or bringing them something home like that is literally to them the same thing as giving the words of encouragement, saying, I love you. Thank you. You're doing a great job. And it doesn't matter what my love language is, because if hers is completely different than what mine is, I can be doing all the things on paper that I think are what's going to show I'm loving you. I'm doing everything I can to tell you I love you and you're doing great. Yeah. And she can literally feel none of it and be dead inside because I'm not doing what fills her love tank and makes her feel loved and appreciated and supported. And no, it doesn't matter how much I do what I'm doing if it's not the things that check off the list for her. And that book will help you become intentional with how to do those things. What are the best ways to then, fulfill.
I say I love you by cooking for you or giving you something or servicing you. I'm a service-oriented person. I want to do things for you. Yeah. Means nothing to him. So when I would clean the house, spend all day, it does. But I mean, it's not the same. That didn't speak to him the way I was trying to convey it to him. So I know in sales we talk about.
I appreciate that you did it, but that's not how I feel loved.
Right.
So it's very physical touch. He likes to be touched and hugged and loved. And I am not a physical touch person. So it literally is work to do that for him. And mine is acts of service. And he didn't get that for a very long time, until about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. And then he started recognizing, like, oh, hey, she needs some help with the dishes, or hey, she needs me to switch over the laundry. And so
Foreplay.
Right.
It's not even
nothing that takes too much time.
But,
Right.
but it's not that she needs my help to do those things. That's the part where it was hard for me to recognize, is that it's not that she couldn't or was incapable or needed the time. It was that by doing so, it made her feel appreciated and loved.
Yes.
To me, initially, it made me feel like I was taking things off her plate, so it would make her feel diminished that I was doing things that were, in theory, her lane, her job, and our family unit business. But that wasn't the case, because she's very much like that. I'm gonna put you guys on the couch real quick. Joel, did you hear what your wife said? Did you hear it?
What's her love language?
Chore play.
Chore play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So acts of service is something is big. So we generally show love the way that we want to be shown love ourselves. So even with you guys reading the book and knowing all that, we already know, because she said, I like to show you that I love you by doing this. And what she really means to say is, if you would come home from work and a little bit early on a day or two and vacuum the living room and then make dinner that night, you would be, her brain would literally in front of you explode. And you would be like, who are you? You love me so much today. What's happening?
Happy life.
Vacuum and cook some chicken noodle soup. And she would be like, but that was so amazing that you did it. You have no idea what that
I would
meant.
talk about it for a year. No, it's the
Yes.
best chicken soup ever.
That's the thing, like, it's something small can last so long.
Yes.
Like, it's very, if you're very intentional with your love, then it lasts a lifetime.
It fills in those gaps where we messed it up in the first 10 years.
Yes.
Well, and I think there's a few other things. I mean, there's two other areas that I thought of here real quick too, is like, what is that role of communications for you to find out more so? I mean, a lot of people, they forget that role of communication. What would you tell those people? Like, what if they're not communicating, what should they do? I mean, obviously the answer is pretty simple, but
Communicate. I mean, that's really what our Wednesday dates are about, is to make sure that we treat our marriage like a safety net. There's no topic off limits, but our Wednesday dates are very, very open, judgmental free. Like, say whatever you need to say. If I'm doing something wrong, I expect you to tell me, and I'm not going to get defensive or upset about it. That's the time that you really need to have a communication about, hey, you did this or said this, and it's really bothering me, and this is why. And then use that as a platform to talk about it, move forward, talk about how you can do things differently. Sometimes he'll say, well, I don't like the way, or generally this comes from me. I'm like, I don't like the way that you said that. It hurt my feelings. It made me upset. And then he can be like, well, this is what I meant.
I didn't mean it that way at all. Yeah.
This is what I meant. Right. And then I'm just completely honest. I'm like, well, then next time, say what you freaking meant. Don't
right.
Don't say it that way, because that way hurt my feelings. This way makes complete sense. And now I'm not upset about it anymore. But just treating your marriage like a safety net and making sure that you're a judgment-free zone of and you're just open and honest and communicative.
So one quick thing to add to that. So that is fantastic for somebody who's trained in practice and has the ability in their marriage to communicate. But I think where Joel meant internally initially was people that have internal conflict and they don't communicate well. There's a reason that they don't communicate well, and that's because they don't have that ability to sit down on Wednesday and do this. And so what advice would I give them?
Yeah, exactly. Say it again.
Hire a coach.
Hire a coach.
That we've done in our entire process in our life that's gotten us from point A to point whatever. I beat my face against the wall my entire life. We're young people. Thank God I learned this really, really young. A lot of people don't learn this until way later in life. But I recently had an argument with a guy that's worth a lot of money, telling a new business person that the only thing that mattered being new in business was to work 900 hours a day, don't sleep, and just drive and grind and grind and grind. And my advice, first thing he was supposed to do before he did anything was hire a coach. And we could not, for the life of us, get on the same page with that. Mm-hmm. So the point is that by hiring a coach, what might take them 10 years to figure out in their marriage, banging against the wall, walking around in the dark, learning things, cheating on each other, all of the bad things that go along with having a good, bad, ugly marriage, that is one of two outcomes. Either you, through all of that, just like in business, you bounce off all of the bad things and find the right paths in between there that continue to step you up to the next part, in your relationship, right, to a better place to communicate. So you either get better at it through that, or you go down the other rabbit hole and you start to get worse at that, to a point where eventually you end up getting divorced. And that's what causes, I think, a lot of, separation and divorce in society today, is that, we have all of these resources for business. You look at a baseball player, he's got 10 coaches, conditioning, strength, mental focus. They got a Buddha guy that they, meditate with, etc. And they need all of that in order to operate at the highest level as a baseball player. Right. For me to be a good, well-rounded, man, husband, entrepreneur, whatever it is, I have 10 different facets to that life that I need to be coached in. And so personally, I have a business coach that works with me on business. We have a trainer that works on us with our health, wealth, and fitness. I have, a personal coach that works with me on communication, wife, and family. And so when you hire somebody, all you do is you take all of their experience that has allowed us to become really good communicators and things like that. And we can walk somebody who's not in a good place with that and kind of teach them the baby steps of not bouncing into the walls, not going down the rabbit hole and seeking other things for personal gratification instead of their spouse. Mm-hmm. And we can walk them in between all the landmines to have better communication and all the things that go on with that, so that they can build through that without having such a negative experience. And instead of 10 years of bouncing around to realize that you love your spouse and want to be with them and be committed to them, we can shrink that down into, hopefully 6 months or less, a year, whatever it takes to get them there. But we can get them to the finish line much quicker.
Right. I when you were talking earlier, Megan, as far as like the communication and that no judgment, I think that's an important, critical part too, because you need to have that ability to just
speak
freely.
That's hard.
But I think that there's an important thing that a lot of people forget about, that is they can't do that in a way that is attacking the other one. You got to just say it. Hey, what you said. Hey, what you said really hurt me, made me feel this way. Well, that's not what I meant. I meant this. Well, say what you mean, right? So that ability for both to come to the table, though, that requires a process by itself just to get to that point. And I think that's where, too, a lot of couples will break down, because then they start accruing that piggy bank of, well, that one time you said.
You hurt me, yeah.
Right? And they need to get rid of the piggy bank of those things. You're not saving up anything worthwhile, right?
Ew.
So that piggy bank, another word for that piggy bank would be forgiveness.
Right.
So the only way to get rid of the piggy bank is to learn to forgive. And I, for 20 years, was the number one champion at grudge holding. Literally. It doesn't matter what you did. I don't care what you did 10 years ago. I'll never speak to you again. Bridge was burned. Don't come near me.
Right.
Papers up. It's not a safe thing. And so what ends up happening is, so in process for me and my coaching and in introspective, self betterment, I started reading a couple of books, and one of the books I read was Lions Not Sheep.
Lions Not Sheep.
It was Sean Whalen's book, and he talks in there about forgiveness being not for somebody else, it's for you. And so it doesn't matter what they did. If I'm holding on to that, all the weight that I'm holding on in this piggy bank, I put that piggy bank on my back and I'm carrying it around with me every day. It's not something I stash in the corner of skeletons. You literally carry it with you. And every decision that you make, you either have an opportunity to, bless and block. So, okay, thank you. Have a good day. Bye. And it doesn't go in the piggy bank then. Or you have the ability to put it in the rabbit hole and toss it in the piggy bank. And now you have, like you said, now you're stuck with that. And so for yourself, for personal wealth and health and everything that you have internally together, you have to learn to give it away.
But this is another thing that's important about getting a coach, is because I've told him forgiveness is for you for years, like since we started dating. And he didn't hear it. But somebody else said it differently, and then it clicked. And that's why it's important to have somebody who's able to coach you that's not in a super close relationship in your relationship, because he could hear what I was saying, but he wasn't hearing what I was saying.
Right.
Able to be called out.
Right.
Yeah, Joy says you're hearing me, but you're not listening to me. But I've had that happen too, even with work or personal stuff. Somebody else says it and it just rings true, but he had told me that. So yeah, same thing.
There was a thing I've heard on forgiveness too. And I think a lot of times when somebody feels like they've been done wrong, they feel it's necessary, necessary to go address it with that person. And although that's true, sometimes you do need to address it. Sometimes you just need to forgive it.
The other person probably never knew they hurt you.
And the other person,
writing a letter and burning it works. You just need to let it go, get off your chest. You don't have to be right all the time. It's fine.
Yeah.
I like
well,
that.
and it's sometimes it's forgiving them without them even knowing, and you're just being at peace with that. And literally you got to burn it. You got to write the letter, so to speak, mentally, physically, literally.
Physically,
whatever,
it helps. I've done it.
and burn it.
Putting down those words makes you feel so much better, and you get it out of your heart.
But if you do that, I think the important thing there too is you don't ever bring it up to the person. Well, I never told you, but
That's forgiveness.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's not.
So,
if that's the case, you're carrying it.
You can forgive. You don't have to forget. Yes, somebody might have hurt you deeply. You can forgive them, but you don't have to forget what they did. You don't have to let them super close to you again. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to forgive them and let it go. Yeah. Because if you keep harboring it, then it's still, like he said, it's still in the piggy bank. You haven't really forgiven them, because if you have forgiven them, it wouldn't bother you anymore.
Right. It takes more energy to carry it along with you.
Yes, it does.
For sure.
And it gives you physical health problems. It will.
It does. And I told him a while back too, he asked me, well, how do you forgive that person? And I told him, I wake up every single day and make the choice that I and consciously remind myself, I have forgiven that person. I can't let what they're going to do today affect me and what I'm going to do today. And so it's an ongoing process until it's not anymore. But
go ahead.
Not to be preachy or anything. If you're a Christian person, I know you guys are. We are. I had a friend who had a horrible marriage, and I asked her once, I'm like, how did you get past some of those things? And she said, I literally prayed to forget, and that worked. It really helped her. She prayed to forget it. And eventually it worked. So she had forgiven, but she really wanted to forget the bad things. And she did. So that can always help too.
I think what about empathy? A lot of times we may not understand our spouse, right? So if we've been through the same thing that somebody else has been through, we can have sympathy. But empathy is that feeling without understanding.
Yes. I am very, very good at empathy. Somebody else is not.
That's her strong suit.
Somebody else,
but you know your roles.
Right.
But he is getting much better, and he's being more aware.
That's a good word. And so what I will say is that this is maybe a skill. It's maybe something you're born with. It's a personality trait more than anything to be empathetic. So some people will naturally be very, and they're very in tune with that. Mm-hmm. And then there's some people that are more like myself, which it may be because of traumatic experience in your past. Who knows what causes it? But there's nothing wrong with it as long as you're self-aware to it. And so for a long time, I was just a dick to be a dick because I wasn't empathetic to anything. I'm data, not drama. Here's what I'm doing. Here's why I'm doing it. We're going that way. You don't like it, get on or off the train. I don't care. And while as a general overview of that, that's not necessarily a problem, it still stirs up conversations that have intrapersonal conversations with people that work with us, with my spouse, etc., to where I can recognize in the moment when something happens that I should be empathetic to this and give grace or not push a certain way through that like I normally would. And when I recognize that, I literally will go to her and say, I don't exactly know how I'm supposed to react right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I know that right now I'm probably not going to react the way that you would like me to. I'm not going to say the right thing. So instead, what I do is I button my lip and I let her know, I don't know what to do with my hands. I feel like a robot right now. I don't know what to do. Tell me what you need me to do. What is, it's something going on with her day. She's overly stressed, whatever. What can I do to help you? Because I don't naturally have that empathy to feel, hey, you look like you're feeling this way. And if I were you, I would want X, Y, or Z, to where I would just naturally do it. I can recognize now that there's a hole, there's a gap between, hey, I need to be doing something, but I don't necessarily know what the answer is to that. And so rather than get frustrated and try to guess and cause us to have a fight while she's already stressed out or there's a problem, I can just robotly, fake empathy and say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, but I know that there's something I'm supposed to do here because I'm self-aware that I suck at that.
But that stems off of making sure that you have the open communication and the safe space in your marriage, is because he has gained that ability to start to come to me. It wasn't like that in the beginning. Right. So, I mean, back to the coaching thing, like you have to get comfortable with the open communication, honesty, no judgment, safety net zone. And then you can kind of start to move into the empathy once you have the communication side down.
I think that takes a lot of humility though, too, at the same time, right? Because, sometimes we need to take a moment and say, okay, I'm only thinking about myself and this has been my day and it's the most important thing. And they should feel that way too. And we never take the time to maybe say, hey, what maybe happened on the way, from driving to get the kids? Did someone almost, run into you? You almost ran off the road. Did you spill your coffee? You did this, you did that. We never take the time, as spouses, we need to take the time to ask those things. And I think that the topic of marriage is such an important one, especially if somebody's trying to be successful in business, because if you don't have that center core of your life, which is should be your marriage, if you're married, strong, and you're not tending to that like you would on your business, right?
Yeah.
Your business is for nothing. Mm-hmm. It has no purpose.
Yeah, like you said in the beginning.
It's empty, right? Yeah, at the very beginning. So you guys, with all of these experiences that you guys have had, you guys have stacked on probably the experiences in 12 years, 10 years
of like 30
of like 30 years,
yeah.
Right? So that's taken you guys to a new chapter in things where you're reaching out to help people, and you guys have even written a book. Tell us a little bit about that book. We got a picture of it right there that's coming out.
Yes. So our book, The Marriage of Business, A Cord of Three Strands, it talks about literally a lot of hurdles that we've been through in the last 12 years of just, across the board stuff, from being a stay-at-home mom to starting my own business to getting fired and starting everything completely brand new overnight.
We took 10 different books in business, in marriage, in friendship, in communication. And then we took our life in an autobiography style and 30 years of life experience, like you said, and we crammed 10 books and life experience of 30 years, all of it down into one book about our life,
right,
and how we went through all the darkness and bounced off the walls and everything that we had to do to come to the realization into, do we separate or do we not? We talk right up to the nitty gritty, dirty, nasty of all of it, to the brink of divorce, which we are not perfect. And, the only reason that we can have the conversations that we have now is because we hit that crossroads and we had an option to either yin or yang. And, one option was get divorced, figure out the kids, separate businesses and things like that. The other option was, what actually got us here? Why is this now? Why are we here? And looking back through our 10 or 30 years of what's what and what we bounced off of, and then recognizing and having that ridiculous conversation together, sitting down with a notepad at dinner to separate assets, right down to that exact moment in our life. And so all that's in the book, beginning to end, all of it. and it kind of works back through, what happened. We hit this crossroad, and our option was yin or yang. What did we choose? Why did we choose it? How do we prevent you from choosing the same thing that, if I could have talked to myself back then, what would I have told myself?
Yeah.
Right.
This needed written. This is going to speak to a lot of people who won't talk about it or admit it or say, yeah, this needed written. I'm excited to read it.
And right here at the bottom, there's a link that we have there. So if you want to go get on the list to get the book, because it's almost out, almost release date is what we're almost to. There's the link right there. mywifewillcutyou.com/BGD. Tell us a little. Okay, the book is on the topic of the business of marriage, a cord of three strands, right? Tell us, I guess, a little bit about that. The theme of the book there in general. Like you've crammed everything together.
I love the title.
But tell us more about that a little bit.
So a cord of three strands is a biblical term of, the spirituality and a husband and wife coming together. And while the husband and wife can come together and is two strands twisted, that can easily untwist, where if you put three strands together, it becomes stronger and basically unbreakable.
Right. Now, the three strands, I mean, what, for those out there that are maybe struggling with that, what does it involve?
Well, for us, our faith is Christianity. So, we use God as our third strand to help bring us together. We do a daily Bible devotional together, actually two of them, two different ones, one on marriage and one on parenting. We go to church regularly and we pray together. We literally use him as like a center point for us to gravitate around. That way we're never too far from that center strand. We can't get any further because we're attached to that center.
Right.
Perfect.
I love it. I mean, because I've heard it said before, like those that pray together stay together. So, you can't really stay angry when you're bringing, a higher power into the mix. Especially like with the foundational beliefs of Christianity there, and we realize that some watching this may have other beliefs, they may have other things they're anchoring upon, but if you're going to look at it from that standpoint as a Christian, you're going to look at as God as the originator of marriage. He knows best how to solve the problems of it, and even in the scriptures, a lot of things we've talked about. The communication, working together, the wife's roles in the household versus the husband. I love it that when you really dig into things like scripture, you see that the wife never had a diminished role in the scriptures. Really didn't. I mean, she was known for the one that conducted business in the city. Yeah,
in Proverbs 31.
In Proverbs. Yeah. So, she was the holder of the king, the keys to the kingdom, basically, so to speak, right? She was the one that would make her husband proud because, she went out there and worked hard. It kind of almost sounds like sometimes when you read those accounts that the guy was, sitting lazy at the city gates, shooting the crap while the lady was working hard. I mean, so we as husbands, we need to give our wives a lot of due respect because they do. I mean,
so much more than you know.
Yeah, so much more. So I love it. Now, tell us though, what's the background on the "My Wife Will Cut You"?
Yeah, tell that story.
Because when we first met you guys,
that was the first thing we learned about you guys.
When we first met you guys, that was like stitched in your suit.
Yes, yeah, it's in all of his suits. So several years ago, there was infidelity in our marriage, and after I had found out about it and confronted him about it, it kind of shifted the way that I guess jealousy would be the best term. I don't like to call myself jealous, but I'm totally jealous. So anytime that he would get a phone call from a female, whether it was work related or not, or another female would look at him, I would just be like, I will freaking cut her. Stay off, like back off. Yeah.
It's a level of
just kind of snowballed from there.
It's a great phrase. It's stuck, obviously. It's stuck for real. It's stuck. Yeah.
It's funny. It's quirky. It started off as a joke, with a negative kind of text back then, when she first introduced it into our conversation together in our marriage. But then it became more of like a jokingly thing, and it became a non-confrontational, judgment-free way to kind of, I love you, right? So it's, hey, that girl's getting a little bit too close, or she looked at you funny, and it's a funny way for her to say, I love you. She looks at you like that again, I'm a cutter. But the way that the conversation is just, gentle and fun and flowy, to where, to me, then that tells me, hey, I love you and I'm possessive of you. You're mine. Don't you even think about looking at her. And for me as a man, the reason I vibe with it is because I'm a man, and
it speaks to you.
It allows,
I was gonna say it's, you're wanted.
Yeah.
Well, to me too, it's like another layer of a wedding ring, because like, we have our watch bands, it's, we have our shirts and stuff, and even our phones have our stuff on there. But it just is like another layer, because people these days just don't care about the ring on the finger.
Right.
So it's just like another layer of like, yes, we're taken. Yes, we're together. Like, please respect our boundaries and our marriage.
Right.
And as a man, so early on, right? So you have a wonderful wife that maybe is fully committed, and early on you have a guy that maybe is not so much. And so she's gonna, vibe with the conversation of this and say mine, and he's too comfortable with other ladies looking at him. And so if I brand him in a certain way with a funny, quippy thing, it's a funny conversation in the way that would then kind of put things off at a kind of keep things at an arm's distance. So for me, it's funny in a way that, if a lady were to look at me in a certain way, we're at the pool or wherever, I'm tattooed, all of the above, I'm legitimately branded. And it's not to lessen me and mine, it's to outwardly show my commitment to my marriage. So, by wearing the brand and things like that, what happens then is when you're at the gym and you're working out, you're doing this, and you happen to have a look and an attractive female walks by and your wife's not there. And as a man, the testosterone pumps, and chemically speaking, no matter how committed we are to the marriage, we have the ability in our heads to play the what if scenarios. Grass is greener, all of the things that could come up with that. And by outwardly sabotaging yourself, if you want to look at it that way, there's no, you don't even, it stops you from having any of those thoughts. I don't, any kind of potential thought where it's like, that'd be fun. And, I've always been outwardly, I'm an extrovert, obviously. So I can talk to the damn side.
No stranger.
Right. And so what that means is that an attractive female could come up and I could nonchalantly talk to the female and just be having a random conversation. We're on vacation. We're in Aruba. We're in Costa Rica. You're at the pool bar. You're getting drinks for your wife. And, the female next to you decides that she's going to spark a conversation. I could very non-flirtatiously have a conversation with that could be construed more flirty. And the next thing you know, now she's becoming a little bit more flirty, and it becomes something that it wasn't supposed to be in the first place. And as a man, you find yourself in that situation. And as an opportunist, as a species, if you're not in a very well committed, good, great marriage, you have a tendency to kind of go, But this conversation, living this life, has allowed me then to, it's nothing. I just bless and block, and I'm just like, don't even talk to me. I don't have a reason to have that conversation with you at all, because I know that it may drive me down the wrong direction. Right.
Now, for some guys, they're going to be like, Josh, you don't know what you're talking about. Right. So let's, and maybe they're trying to be an entrepreneur. They're trying to be business. They're like, hey, that just comes with, growing and becoming something, right? You're going to get the attention, let's put it to them in the numbers, maybe that they can think about, right? From a business standpoint, when you made this type of commitment together, what did it do to your business?
It's cheaper to keep her.
True.
If you're in business, you better get your shit together.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
anybody, any one of my friends now that are very wealthy, that have gone through a divorce, have lost it all. Every one of them has outwardly communicated, if I could only go back to then, I would give it all up. I would have done it all differently.
Right.
Yeah.
I was focused on this, and this is what was more important to me. I missed this. I wish I didn't screw this up. And because of that, what you do is you walk across that finish line and you go, you can have it all. I don't want any of it because it cost me that. And so, when you get to the higher echelon of things, if you get, you win this game, but the cost of it was so great, emotionally, familially, you lose everything else. There's no point to keeping it. So you'll end up giving it all away to begin with, because it reminds you every day of what you lost building it.
I think it speaks very strongly to someone's ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they think of themselves as someone very ethical, someone very moral, someone that should be looked up to. Hey, I'm someone you should mimic or copy, like in business, right? They completely discredit that if they're not working at like what you guys are doing right now, ever more so, working on the marriage. They're not making the important things important.
Yeah.
It completely discredits somebody. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
for nothing, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. So, I mean, I think a lot of times people too, I've always myself, like, for example, I've felt a lot of accomplishment when I've achieved like a goal in business or done something very successful. But
Mm-hmm.
you look at all these other things. It's like, why did you even start doing those things?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because you wanted to do something for your family. Everybody always says their goals are, well, I want to provide for those that I love and this, that, and the other. And that's very noble and that's very good.
It's bullshit.
But you can't sabotage it along the way. No one's with you on the journey then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. Because there's been times, and I'm sure you've had them too, where there is that frustration. And he's like, well, I'm doing it to provide. I'm like, it's just for you. It's not for all of us. You're the one getting the pleasure out of it or the enjoyment out of it. And it's not benefiting everybody because
we should do things that make us personally feel fulfilled. Right. We should do things for us. She should do things for her. I should do things for us. As long as we then come back in our intentional relationship, then we are, have a full circle life. You're fulfilled.
Right. The coming back together and having the joint is that's when it matters.
Well, fantastic. Megan and Josh, I'm looking forward. I took on a lot of good points there as far as, that role of the communication, the intentionality. And I think that's where, people, if they could just focus on those things, and forgiveness.
Life isn't for autopilot day in, day out. I like the intentional. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, guys, we're looking forward to your book being released, and we appreciate you guys taking time. Definitely when you guys are back in the are you guys in Kansas City or are you guys in Ohio? Okay.
Now, for now.
Just a minute away.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing an audiobook and reading it together?
That will definitely be on the thing.
Put it on the list. Because I listen to books. I have a hard time reading. I can't sit still. This is hard. This has been really hard. I can't sit still. I don't like sitting and reading, but I'll listen to everything. So audiobooks are my thing. I'm going to get that book, it's been way too long. It's been on my list and I've never got it. So today I'm going to go get that, but I want yours audio too.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us on, you guys.
Definitely. We appreciate it. We love you guys very much. And we look forward to hanging out with you guys again soon.
Very soon.
All right. All right, guys. We'll go ahead and thank you guys, everyone, for joining. Share this out. Give us your comments. We'll actually have a link in the bottom as well that you can click on to get access to the book. So that way, go there today and make sure that you're reserving your copy, because I know Megan and Josh, they're gonna sell out when it comes out. So definitely go get your book. We appreciate everyone joining on. Join us next week. We have Ken Walls joining us. So on BEGrowthDriven, we have Ken Walls, Walls of Wisdom. And we have anything else to say on marriage? I've taken it all.
Oh, do not give me the final words. That's not my place.
Final words.
That's not my
Send
place.
us off.
I like how they compared your marriage to a business as far as everybody having their roles and knowing them. Everybody has a God-assigned role. Take it and run with it and be successful with it.
Awesome. On that note, we'll see you next week.
you.